Thank you. First, before I forget, I know my mum's live streaming this, so I have to say hi, Mum. My presentation is Zero to Website, a designer's 9-step guide to creating awesome WordPress websites all by yourself. So firstly, I just want to get a show of hands to see how many people at the moment actually manage projects from start to finish. So from the planning and the design, the development, all that. Awesome, that's awesome. How many people sort of want to maybe only handle a part of the project, like a stage of the project, but want to get more of a handle on sort of the whole start to finish process? Cool. Well, hopefully this helps both groups of people, so people that are currently doing it and sort of maybe want to refine their processes a little bit better, learn from other people's processes, and also those that don't currently handle projects from start to finish. Hopefully this gives you a good overview of how you can do that, and I know Jasmine's talk after mine will go into that a bit further as well. So firstly, just a little bit about me. Like Isabel said, I'm a freelancer and I've been designing websites for about 10 years now. I'm a designer to my core. I did graphic design, so first and foremost that's where I started out, and then I got into WordPress later, which I'll talk about in a bit. I'm a mentor for other graphic designers, web designers who want to sort of get into the web space, and I have an e-course teaching them how to do that. I'm also a sausage dog mum, and I'm a graphic designer turned website creator, and I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So I started out, as I said, I went to uni, I did graphic design, that's where I started. I learnt some basic HTML and CSS there, and they were the first websites that I built. These very basic, static HTML websites from Dreamweaver. They weren't responsive or anything, but they didn't really need to be back then. But eventually I sort of found WordPress. My auntie, who was a web designer, taught me about WordPress, so I looked into that. But I was really heavily reliant on a theme and also a developer. I found it a bit too complicated. I couldn't take it on myself. So I would design my websites in Photoshop, and then I would give them to a developer, and he would build them out as custom themes for me, or using a theme and sort of customizing it from there. And then a few years ago, I discovered a thing called WordPress page builders, and you've probably going to hear a lot about them this weekend with the talks on Elementor and everything. And this really, as a designer, completely changed my career and allowed me to be able to handle projects from start to finish and not rely on a developer. So that's where I'm up to at the moment, and that's what this presentation is about. So step one, obviously, is the goals. You have to get super clear on the goals of the project, and especially your ideal client and what their goals are as well. So the first step that I do is defining the ideal client, having an idea of who we're actually building the website for, what are their likes and interests, what are they actually going to the website for, what are they going to expect to see, what do they want to do when they get there. Then also looking at the brand's goals, the business goals for the website, so what do you actually want the website to achieve for that particular business. And then also the editor's goals. So if this is a website for yourself, then that might be you. But you might be building a website for a client, and they're going to have a team of people that are going to have to do certain things on the website. So really taking into account what the people that are editing the website are going to have to do. So you can make those things really easy for them, and they're not sort of hard-coded or really complicated and all over the place. So some tips here are to have an ideal client avatar. And also have a really good brief form. So an ideal client avatar can look something like this, where you can give them a name, develop a persona for the ideal client that's going to be coming to that website. You can give them an age, you can give them all these different sort of characteristics and personality traits. But the main thing is figuring out what they really want from the website, what they're going there for. You could go into depth and do an ideal client avatar, or you can just have a really good brief form that asks them questions. So when you are initially briefing a client and getting a project brief from a client, I get them to fill out this form that tells me a lot of information about who their ideal client is, so I can put together a picture of that client in my head, so I know throughout the whole process when I'm developing copy or making any design decisions, I'm going to have that ideal client in my head so I can design accordingly. After that stage, we're on to the goods. So this is gathering all the goods you need to create your site. I start out with a sitemap. That's one of the first step for me really is really figuring out exactly all the pages we're going to need on the site, where they're all going to fit and roughly what's going to go on each of those pages. Then looking at the keywords, what are the keywords we're going to focus on for that site, and then with those two things together, that's when I will get started on the copywriting, or give that to my copywriter. And some tips here are outsourcing copywriting. So who has built a website, signs up a client, you're all ready to go, they're all keen to go, and then you wait months and months and months for copy? It's just crickets for months, because they have to put the copy together. Maybe they thought you were going to do that for them. Maybe they didn't think it was such a hard task. You might be waiting months and then you get the copy back and it's terrible. So one thing I implemented a few years ago now is partnering with a copywriter who has some set prices for me for writing copy. I include it in my packages, and that's sort of one of the first things that I get cracking on when we start a project, is to get this copywriting brief to the copywriter. She can start developing the copy, and then it just streamlines that whole process, makes it really, really quick and easy. So obviously you can find a local copywriter in your local area or something like that. Clever Copywriting School, Kate Toon's Copywriting School, has a directory on the website with lots of copywriters, so that's a really good place to go. And then also to get all the legal copy, like so the privacy policy and things like that that you might need for a website. Legal 123 is a really cool one for Australian businesses, and there's also the contract shop. I should say all these things that I'm mentioning here too, I will give you a link at like one of the last slides, and they're all going to be on this page on my website, so you don't need to madly scribble everything down if there's anything that you want. And then for gathering content, there's a couple of tools that I've used and really like. I used to use Content Snare. That was a really cool tool that allows you to gather content from clients and keep it out of email and put it in a real structured way. So that's a really cool one to look at. Dubsado is another one other people use. I currently actually just use a Trello board. I pretty much took everything that I'd developed in Content Snare and then created my own Trello board and use it that way. And this is kind of what it looks like. I just set up a client with a Trello board, and pretty much they can just input everything in there. I can set deadlines and stuff like that. There's a link to my Trello board as well that you guys can copy and make it your own as well. So that's a really sort of a good starting point, and it's a free tool to use as well. Next up is the style. So to ensure your website is beautiful, unique and on brand by defining your site's style. So often you might get maybe a logo from a client, but you might not have a full style guide, or the logo might just be one or two colours, and you need to develop like a bigger colour palette. You need to find fonts that are going to work on the website, because you don't want to use custom fonts all the time. So really it's gathering all this sort of information and coming up with a colour palette that's suitable for the web, and fonts and stuff, and more images. So these are some of the tools that I use to develop colour palettes. I'll show you on another slide in a sec. Coolers is a really cool one where you can upload an image and generate a colour palette from the image or from the logo or something like that. UI Gradients is kind of a similar tool, but it's just for gradients rather than solid colours. Google Fonts, obviously. We all sort of use Google Fonts these days, but fontpair.co is a really cool tool that shows you how different Google fonts work together, so you can sort of pick good font combinations. And then Unsplash and Raw Pixel are two free, royalty-free stock image websites that I like to use, just to, obviously it's great to get some professional shots taken and stuff, but sometimes there's just certain images that you might need just for blog posts or something like that, so they're really good sites to go to. So yeah, this is a little GIF of just showing you how Coolers work. So you can just pick an image, upload it, and it'll auto-magically generate a colour palette for you. And you've got all the hex colours that you can use on your website. So it's a really cool tool to sort of like play around and develop colour palettes if you need that for a website. And I just thought I'd show you, we're all sort of familiar with Google Fonts, but lots of people don't know that they have these cool font combinations on the Google Fonts website as well. So it's gone straight to what I was going to show you, but if you're from this page, you go see Specimen and scroll to the bottom, you'll see that then you can see what your chosen font would look like with some of their popular pairings. So you can sort of play around and see how they're going to work there, which is a cool tool to use, and it's free. So next is the foundations, and this is set up your site on solid software foundations. So this is looking at your domain, buying your domain, the hosting, the SSL, and the email setup. So with hosting in particular, one tip really is don't skimp on hosting. Eventually you will get burnt, and you'll learn that the hard way, and I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, have learnt the hard way with poor quality website hosts. So make sure you choose a good one, and pretty much like all of the guys here today I'm sure are good. I can't say I've used all of them, but some of my favourites I've used WP Engine and SiteGround. Flywheel's the next one I'm kind of keen to try. They look pretty good. There's Venture IP. They're all pretty good website hosts, so make sure you pick a good host. That's really, really important. And one with good support as well, and support that suits you. There are some website hosts like Venture IP, I think they're really good, but I hate support tickets. I much prefer live chat, and I find it really frustrating. But if you're more a support ticket person, or you want to get on the phone, then find something with the support that suits you. Another tip here is to host your emails separately with G Suite or some sort of separate email hosting of some kind. Has anyone had their website or a client's website hacked, and then the emails go down, and then it's all just, everything goes haywire? Yeah. So having your emails separate to your hosting can just be good to sort of protect you against them sort of impacting each other. And it means also that your emails are going to eat into your storage space of your website hosting plan as well. So I like to use G Suite, but Venture IP has a separate email hosting service, so you can have your website host and your email host separately. And obviously having SSL, and pretty much all good website hosts you can get free, Let's Encrypt or Auto SSL these days as well. Next is the tools. Set up the basics of your WordPress site. So I will go, next up, what I'll do once I've got the hosting is go install WordPress and configure some basic settings. And I'll also create a coming soon page pretty much right away, because I did find when I used to build websites for clients, and then the website would launch and they'd go to Google straight away and type in their website and nothing's coming up. And so now I create a coming soon page right away if we are building the website on a live domain, and put some, I think I have an example. So I use a plugin called SeedProd coming soon page in maintenance mode. And you can put in your USP or UVP, you can put in a meta description, you can put in your contact details, you can put in all this stuff, and make sort of a nice coming soon page. And then it has a little box where you can put in a meta description and everything like that. So Google will start seeing your website, and it'll start coming up in Google before it's even launched. So that's really great when a website project can drag on for 6 to 9 months. It's already getting indexed and already getting seen. And so when your website actually launches and the client goes there, it's already sort of there, parts of it are already appearing. You will notice if I go back that I've put the amazing websites coming soon right down the bottom here, and I probably could have made it bolder or something like that, but I don't put it towards the top because I don't want that appearing in my, when it's getting indexed on Google. I don't want that coming up as saying website coming soon when it's actually live. So that's just a tip there, and that's a free plugin that you can use as well. So next is the secret weapon, and this is the web dev secret weapon I think every designer, but really every non-techie should have in their toolkit. And this is page builders. So we have themes and we have child themes and we still need them, but having a page builder like the ones I'm going to go through really opens up your ability. It gives you sort of this limitless potential to design all the parts of your website and not really be restricted to the common restrictions you would have in a theme. So I just have a couple of GIFs to go through just to show you, you'll see that they're all quite similar. This is Divi. where you can sort of just edit text inline, you can drag and drop things everywhere. If anyone went and saw the Gutenberg presentation before, it's just like Gutenberg on steroids, really. You can do a lot more and now manage all the parts of the website. This is Elementor, very similar. Again, drag and drop, there's so many different widgets or modules that you can use. And this is Beaver Builder. They're all, in my opinion, they're all great. You've just got to find the one that you like best and stick with it, really. Try and find one that you really like and try and stick with it, because if you can become super fast with your tool of choice, you're going to be able to pump out websites really quickly. So a pro tip here is to set up a starter site. And this is actually something I learned from my friend Hayley. She set up a starter site where she puts all her, a page builder, her theme, a child theme, all the plugins that she'll commonly use, her WordPress configurations, and any maybe like custom CSS or basic contact forms, things that you'll reuse on pretty much all your websites. If you set up a starter site for yourself with all those things already on there, then you can just use a tool like I use Manage WP, or you can use a similar tool to clone that website as your starter site when you start a new project. So it just takes, it saves you about an hour's worth of time of just, uploading all those things and entering your licenses again and configuring all these little settings of setting it to Australia in the right time zone and the right language and all those kind of things. You can have it all set up, all ready to go when you start a new site, and makes it really quick and easy. So this is just an example. This is like looking at the plugins of my starter site. Some of the plugins that so this is my starter site and I have all these plugins already installed. Some of them are activated, some of them are deactivated. It's all sort of there, ready to go. I've already got my coming soon page, sort of blank thing already there, and I just got to punch in some details. So it just saves a lot of time. And this in Manage WP, you just find the site and then you can clone it onto where you want your new website to be. So next is the build. And so this is firstly just crafting the homepage. That's what I do first. I'll just wireframe out the homepage, build that first for the client, and then I'll move on to the other pages. So a wireframe, this is a very pretty example of a wireframe with, like having all the things that you might need. So looking at what are the main, when you've got your brief form at the beginning, you've figured out your ideal client goals, everything like that, then you can sort of plug this in to your wireframe based on the copy and everything that you've got. You put in sort of your main calls to action closest to the top, and then other goals that maybe the ideal client wants to come to the website to whatever they might want to do on the website, making sure that's as close to the top as possible and above the fold if possible. And then also, any SEO experts in the room, feel free to correct me, but I believe a minimum of 300 words of text is ideal for SEO, or like a minimum, don't have any less than that. And so I always make sure that I include a minimum of 300 words of text on the homepage. So this is a really, as I said, a very pretty example of a wireframe. This is often what my wireframes look like. So it's really just for my eyes only. Obviously, I wouldn't necessarily send this to a client because they'd have no idea what I was going on about. This is just for me to sort of map it out in my head before I start designing of where things should go. If I was to give a wireframe to the client, I'd either try and draw a little bit neater or maybe do something a little bit more designy for them. But I just find that's a really good step in the process of just getting it out and making sure everything's in a logical order. So once I've done my wireframe, create the pages, add them to the menu, use my theme builder or theme options or theme customizer to sort of set all the colours and fonts and all those things at the sort of global settings for the website, and then use the theme builder and everything to design my site. So I now actually just design and build directly in Divi, which is my page builder of choice. I used to use Photoshop, make those designs and then move them to Divi, or before that I even just give them to my developer to do. But now I found with a tool like Divi, it just makes it super duper quick for me to just punch out designs and do everything all in the one go, cutting out that step altogether. And the other benefit is then when I send that homepage to a client, they have a live mock-up of their site, like with all the hovers and everything like that working. Obviously, if they click on internal pages, it might not be anything on there just yet. but it makes it really easy for them to visualize, because I can't tell you how many times I would send a JPEG, a flat JPEG that I've exported from Photoshop to a client, and they're like, it's so tiny, I can't read it, because they're like looking at it on the screen like this big and trying to tell them that I have to zoom in and look at it at the normal size. So that makes it much easier. So some tips here to get approval before moving on. Like I said, thank you, just doing the homepage first and maybe just one internal page before you do the whole website can save a lot of time. If a client comes back and says, you know, they hate something, then you've got to change it on all of the pages. So just doing maybe the homepage and maybe one internal page first and getting approval and getting that all set before you move on. And also using something, I usually record like a Loom video going through the design and explaining why I've done certain things before when I send through the concept to them. That way it sort of gives them you know, an explanation of why I've done things and why this is here and why it's not there and why it might be different to what they expect. And it means that usually I get less changes. And then there's a cool tool which I'm actually yet to try, but I think it looks awesome, so I've put it there, which is WP Feedback. And it's a tool that you can, it's a plugin you put on your website, and it means that clients can then comment on the actual parts of the website that they want to change and things like that. So that looks really cool, and I really want to. I'm waiting for Cyber Monday deals, and then I'm going to buy that plugin. So next is the fit out. So fit out the rest of your pages with all your awesome content. So add content to all your internal pages. Save and duplicate library items onto other pages, saving you heaps of time. So one of the real, huge benefits of page builders is that they you can create these global elements. So say if you had an email opt-in call to action or something like that you want to repeat on every page, if you want to make that the same on every page, you can save that as a global library item, and then you just, it's sort of pretty much like a widget, I guess, that you have usually where you can repeat it on multiple pages. You change it once, it'll change on all those pages. You can also have non-global library items. I'm using terminology here based on Divi. In other page builders, they might use slightly different words, but they do all have very similar features. And with the non-global library items, you can pretty much create a layout or something like that that you can use for every blog post or everything like that, but the content's going to be different. So that makes it really quick and easy to really build out websites and build out all the different pages. One tip here is to thoroughly test on mobile, tablets, small and large computers before saving library items. One thing that I learnt the hard way is I sort of saved all the testing testing on mobile and responsiveness and stuff until the end of a project, and then I realised once I've recycled all those library items, then I have to go back and change it everywhere, rather than if you do it at the beginning, make sure it's working fine everywhere. You don't have to do that a million times. So this is a really cool tool I like to use. I don't know if the URL's up there, but I have provided a link. But yeah, responsive design checker, so you can just pretty much punch in nearly all the different screen sizes, and you can see how your website is scaling up and down. And that's a free tool online. And next is the tune-up. So clean it up, make it fast, and get your website ready to launch. So yeah, clean it up, get rid of all sort of the pages and posts and images and things like that that you don't need anymore, that you might have uploaded these images, you might have 4 different versions of that image because you were trying to get the size quite perfect. So clean up all that stuff, then go and add alt text to all of your images. I wait till the end here to do it because, like I said, I've probably uploaded the same image about 5 times trying to get something right. You don't want to have to add alt text to all of those images, so clean it up and then do that. Compress the images. I optimise them and everything before I upload them, but running them through another compression plugin like WP Smush afterwards just makes them even smaller and makes your website load a little bit faster. Add some security. So I use WordPress, I really like, but there's some other great security plugins out there. Having some caching plugin on there as well. There's WP Rocket, which I like to use, but WP Fastest Cache is one that I've tested and I've heard from people it's a really good free one to use. So, but there's a lot of different free and paid caching plugins out there. And then setting up Google Analytics and Search Console. And so for that, I currently use Yoast SEO and Monster Insights, but I'm really keen to start trying Google Sitekit that's just come out. So that might potentially get rid of Monster Insights. But having that all set up to begin with, so you've got all the data there for if you ever use it, because often maybe you're not going to even use it, your client might not even want to go there, but you never know, in a couple of years time they might want to start doing some kind of SEO, and having all that information there, all that couple of years of data is going to be really valuable to them, so setting all that stuff up. And a tip here is to have a pre-flight checklist. So this is just an example of my pre-flight checklist, and I like to have something that I can go through and make sure everything's ticked off at the end of a job, making sure that I've pretty much done all those things I just mentioned, cleaning things up, adding alt text, adding the caching plugin, doing all that stuff, and just having something to go through at the end there. Make sure that all my I's are dotted and T's are crossed and everything's perfect when we go to launch. And there's a link to my pre-flight checklist too, so you guys can grab that if you want. And last but not least, once you've finished, make sure you share it. Don't just let it sort of lie on the interwebs and don't share it with anyone. Just put it out there. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. Get it out there, share it on social media, and if it was a client's website you've done, try and get them to share it, and when there's all this hype around it, and it helps promote your business and stuff. So make sure you get it out there. And I think that's it. Oh, this is where you can go get all my all that stuff I was talking about. There's all like links to, I don't know, SiteGround and all the plugins and things like that I mentioned. So if you just go to emmacate.co/WordCamp, it's all there. And yeah, I think that's it. So any questions?
How big is your team?
Just me.
Really?
Yeah. I have hired people in the past, and I do have a developer that I get to help with other stuff. I am just a freelancer though, so I just outsource. I have a developer, I have other designers and stuff that can help out with certain things. But yeah, it's pretty much just, that's what a page builder can do for me. I can handle the whole project from start to finish, which is awesome. But obviously I outsource copywriting. There's certain things I don't do, but it's just me in my home office, in my PJs half the time.
Sorry.
Hi, I wanted to ask about the Divi and your clients. And the reason I'm asking about these two, because I know that a few of the time I used Divi and handed it to clients, they said they found it too hard to manage or to update, although I tried to use their templates. So just wanted to hear how you find it.
I find, since having Divi, my clients find it a lot easier to use than the previous themes and stuff I was using. But I do give them training videos, so that it comes with training videos. So that I'll send them a link to all the Divi's generic training videos, but I'll also record some Loom videos of me going through specific things that are unique to their website to train them on those things. In the briefing stage, I do find out exactly what they're going to need to do on the website, because often it might just be adding a blog post, adding an event, doing certain things like that. So I train them on how to do those specific things. There are some features in Divi, and I think some of the other page builders might be similar, where you can actually lock down certain things so that they don't have access to everything. You can just give them access to certain parts. So I think that's a really awesome feature that comes with Divi in particular. I'm sure the other page builders probably have it, where you can really restrict what your client can do to make it easier for them. No worries.
Fantastic talk, Emma. Thank you for that. If you don't mind me asking, how long do you normally take to go through all 9 steps, and proportion of time in each step, and how much do you roughly charge? It's okay to be really, really, broad.
Okay. I don't mind answering any of those. That's fine. So based on if the client doesn't delay the project. So in an ideal world, if they're super speedy and get back to me really quick, I say to a client, I can probably wrap up a website within maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Most of the time, it drags on for about 3 months is probably about my average, sometimes longer. Really, I guess the biggest stage is probably the briefing stage at the beginning and getting the copywriting all done and getting all that sort of handled. Once I have all that, with all the sort of tools I use and setting up the starter site and being able to clone, like I could whip up a homepage. From buying the hosting to having the homepage fully done is just a day. You know, like it's sort of just a really quick process, like because I've got so quick with it now. And then it's, yeah, really, then within a week I could finish off the rest of the website, as long as there's not, you know, complicated functionality or big forms or things like that that I have to do. No worries. Any more questions? I thought you were putting up your hand then.
So, yeah, another question. But,
No.
do you just build, or do you also, say, go on and manage the sites for your customers? Because it sounds like you build like a rapport with them, so they'd find it easy to come back to you and continue doing business.
Yeah, so I do offer maintenance plans, like website care plans for them to do sort of updates and stuff monthly. I still struggle to convince them to do it all the time. It's one of those hard things to try and sell to clients on an ongoing thing. But I do have quite a few that I still manage like that. And even if they don't go on an ongoing, like month-to-month maintenance plan, it's sort of coming back every sort of 6 months and doing some tweaks or things like that. Sure. All good? Any more questions? Please phone Emma. Thank you.